What up? Can you hear me? Hopefully. Yeah, okay, that's working. All right. Yeah, all right. Let me get these stories pulled up. My dudes. This old trailer. Holy fucking fuck. That's a long boy. That's a long boy. Help us improve. No thanks. What's going on, everybody? Howdy doody. It is Friday the 13th. I forgot about that. Let me make sure my phone is on silent. Let's hope that I can get through these stories and not fumble over everything. That'd be nice. Yes, I miss Blockbuster as well. We used to have another one around here locally called Family Video that I used to go to all the time as well. Blockbuster and Family Video. I'm currently not drinking anything. I'm trying to lose weight and cut. So I drink one beer earlier. Well, this is the first one I've had in a while. I'm trying not to drink as much lately. I'm trying to lose, shed. So right now I'm drinking water. Agua. Blockbuster had over 9,000 stores open at their peak. DW coming in with the factoids. What's up, buddy? What's up, pal? About to put little Michael Zinnigan. Rip a Zin, rip some stories. Hopefully this isn't never recorded with one of these in, so we're gonna see if this is, if you can tell. Alright. I'm not even gonna dick around here. We're gonna get into the stories because it's already almost 9:30 here, and Zach just shot these over to me about maybe 30 minutes ago, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna record these tonight because I'm gonna be gone next week, and I want to have something for Tuesday. Because since you guys are here, I'll give you the 411, the missing 411. We're going back to the old format. Tuesdays and Thursday drops. The only thing that's really changing is I'm really emphasizing the fact that we get good quality stories. So most episodes will only have 1 to 3 stories tops. I've been listening for years in my first live stream. Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I don't really do live streams very often. I wish I had the type of lifestyles where I could commit to some kind of live streaming schedule, but my life is very chaotic, so it just doesn't work out, unfortunately. I'm going to Texas to visit my sister and brother. And no more drink of the week. No, unfortunately, I had the bar linked up here with locally was working out really well, and then the guy got super busy and he's not able to do it anymore, or at least not to the extent that I needed it. So here we are. And I feel like a lot of the listeners were okay with the new format, but they weren't like in love with it, and everybody was kind of fucking not having it. So, and yeah, I mean, I don't mind either way. I mean, I was just trying to switch it up a little bit. Maybe this is was just like my come to God moment where I'm like, okay, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know? All right. Shall we read a story? Before I do, is the music volume, is it just right? Is it too loud, too low compared to my volume on my voice? Yeah, I'm kind of glad that the drink of the week thing isn't working out, because I have a really bad time with finding people and getting with people who I then, or like, let's just say there's too many elements to the show. So with the video editor, plus the drink of the week, now I'm having to rely on other people to make for sure that they hit deadlines so that I can drop an episode. That's why I like a lot of the time with that new format, I couldn't like set a date down to like, okay, every week we're going to drop on Wednesday or Thursday or Tuesday, whatever the hell. Because I'm always just kind of like, my end, everything's done on my end, and now I'm waiting on people. And I fucking hate waiting on people, especially when we agree on a deadline and then that deadline comes and goes and you kind of keep stringing me along. So it's, yeah, it's getting a little frustrating. So I'm kind of glad that all of it, besides, you know, getting the stories directly from Zach, is all on me again. Yeah. So it is what it is. Now I'm just gonna again emphasize on making sure that we have really good stories and try to not have like duplicate ones and stuff like that. So, because I feel like the ending stories in the new format those were really good stories, and I had a really good time telling those. But that's like kind of like the barometer, or whatever you want to call it, for stories moving forward. What I need it to be quality wise. So hopefully that's what we continue to do. All right, let me get this story pulled up, and we're gonna fucking rip it. Fingers crossed that I don't fumble all this shit. All right, story number 1. Here we go. The first house that Dean and I ever bought wasn't much to look at, but goddamn, it felt like we'd made it. It was a dingy double-wide trailer sitting on a quiet little lot in a very tired trailer park. I gotta do that again. I almost said like trailer parking lot. I'm gonna turn this music down too. It's a little abrasive right now. All right. There we go. Okay. Where was I? It felt like we'd made it. It was a dingy double-wide trailer sitting on a quiet little lot in a very tired trailer park. Lots of non-running vehicles, retired people, fixed incomes, and non-stop grilling. We lived in Middle America, a mid-sized town. I'm sure you all can picture it. But the house, that was ours. For years, we'd been renting cramped, tissue paper walled apartments, landlords that didn't fix shit. Every month, we'd watch our paychecks disappear into rent and utilities, telling ourselves that eventually we'd get ahead. One day, we would climb out of the hole that we'd been borrowing from and call something our own. It only took us 5 years. All right, finding out that hold on, give me 1 second, I'll be right back. You're right. I think it is dingy. It's D-I-N-G-Y, but I read it dingy. Oh, shit. And it's not very easy to record stories with a fucking Zen in your mouth. I feel like I'm like saliva galore. I'm so late, I hope I'm not pregnant. Oh, well, you're on your own, bud. Sorry about that. It felt like we'd made it. Should have, you don't want that late text that, oh, I think I'm late text. I'm sure you're a strong, independent woman. Felt like we'd made it. All right, I'm going to re-record that because Amy so eloquently put it. Dingy. That's my dingo baby. She's just being Amy, you know. All right. Let us return to the dingy trailer. It felt like we'd made it. All right. It was a dingy double-wide trailer sitting on a quiet little lot in a very tired trailer park. Lots of non-rolling vehicles, retired people, fixed incomes, and non-stop grilling. We lived in Middle America, a mid-sized town. I'm sure you all can picture it. But the house, that was ours. For years, we've been renting cramped, tissue-papered walled apartments, landlords that couldn't fix shit. Every month, we'd watch our paychecks disappear into rent and utilities, telling ourselves that eventually we would get ahead. One day, we would climb out of that hole of borrowing and call something our own. It only took 5 years. Dean had been working construction since he was 19. Long days framing houses and hauling lumber in every kind of weather. I bartended 4 nights a week for almost 20 years. A little rustic family bar, elbow counter, big dance floor, brick bathroom. An older building, but it was familiar. Made a lot of good memories there. It didn't carry a 401k and it couldn't even promise to pay the bills, but it was a job that I was actually pretty good at. It took a long time to scrape the money together. Side jobs, overtime, skip vacations, and a lot of nights where we told ourselves that we'd celebrate later. When we finally found the trailer, it wasn't exactly what we imagined it to be. The siding was faded, streaked with dirt, and actual bird shit. One of the porch railings was loose, another cracked off completely. The back steps leaned a bit when you stood on them. But the trailer itself was built and was site built? Okay. But the trailer Okay. But the trailer itself was site built and surprisingly spacious inside. 3 bedrooms, a big living room, a decent kitchen. A lot was bigger than most of the others in the neighborhood, and it backed up against this strip of scraggly woods that made the place feel a little more private than the rest of the park. Dean walked through the front door that first day, looked around the living room and said, "We can make this work." He was already on board for something that needed a little TLC, knowing it would come at a little price. Knowing it would come a little at... What is that? Wait, what? Knowing it would come at a little price. He was already on board, knowing it would come at a little price, and so we did. The first few weeks were honestly some of the happiest that I can remember. We had a new routine. Dean drove out to the job sites early in the morning while I slept in after my shifts. I'd wake up around noon, make coffee, and start chipping away at whatever small repairs that we were tackling that week. Fresh paint in the living room, new cabinet handles in the kitchen, a deep clean that got rid of that weird smell the place had when we first moved in. The carpets took a few runs before it actually went away. Our neighbors turned out to be pretty friendly too. The guy across the street helped Dean fix the loose railing on the porch, and the older couple, 2 trailers down, brought over a plate of brownies. And the older couple, 2 trailers down, brought over a plate of brownies our second week there. To this day, it's the best triple chocolate. To this day, it's the best triple chocolate brownies I've ever had in my life. We even had a couple of small housewarming parties. Nothing crazy, just a few friends from the bar, a cooler of cheap beer, music playing through Dean's sound system while people wandered through the house, commenting on how much bigger it was than they expected it to be. We had some furniture, but not enough to totally fill in the way we wanted it to, at least not yet. For the first time in years, probably at least since we got married, it felt like we were actually winning in life. One night a few weeks after we moved in, Dean and I were stretched out on the couch in the living room, watching some dumb reality show that we were actually super into at the time. It was late, close to midnight. The house was quiet except for the low volume of the TV and the hum of the refrigerator off in the kitchen. I remember laying there on Dean's chest and the stray thump of his heart nearly drowning everything else out. I was half asleep when we both heard it at the same time. Footsteps. They came from outside, slow, creeping across the wooden boards of our front porch. I felt Dean stiffen underneath me. Okay. Dean stiffening, my guy. Porch. Bishop, what's up, brother? Our front porch. What up? What up, doe? Footsteps. Front porch. Dean stiffened under me. Dean stiffened underneath me. His heart kicked to life under my ear. We both then turned our heads toward the front window, just as the footsteps passed in front of it, the faint shadow of somebody moving through those thin curtains. They were thick as light blockers, but still, a vague shadow barely cut through them. Nervous sweat came to life immediately on both of us. Then the sound stopped directly at the front door. Oh God, no. I couldn't remember if either one of us had locked it. The handle then twisted softly back and forth. The metal latch rattled against the lock with a quiet clack. Denied. The person on the other side then let go. Dean and I stared at each other, eyes wide. Neither of us saying anything, but I could tell he wanted to scream. A moment passed, then the footsteps started up again. They moved along the length of the porch toward the far end, boards creaking as they went. We heard the faint scramble of somebody climbing up over the railing, followed by the signs of branches rustling in a small thicket of trees that bordered that back lot. And then, nothing. Complete silence. Dean got up and walked slowly to the window while I stood there behind him, caught between grabbing a knife or calling 911. He pulled the curtain aside just enough to peek out it. The porch was empty. Nothing indicated who or whatever was out there. A nice, calm, dark evening beyond the glass. No footprints, no blood, no evidence of anything. Our yard beyond that was just dark, trees barely visible up against the night. Whoever had been there was now long gone. Dean and I barely slept that night. Every noise in the trailer sounded like somebody stepping back onto the porch again. Every time the wind moved through the trees behind the lot, I caught myself staring toward the front door, waiting to hear the rattle again. Hearing somebody pace the house put a fear into my heart that I never knew even existed, and I wasn't sure Dean and I were capable of protecting ourselves. By morning, we both agreed we needed to talk to the neighbors, get a read of everybody that knew about peeping toms or prowlers out here. The first place we went was the little house across the street. Bill and Margaret had been the friendliest people in the neighborhood since we moved in. Bill was already outside when we walked up, leaning over the engine of his old pickup. Dean quickly explained to him what had taken place the night before. Bill listened quietly, his expression turning to grimace. I knew before he spoke that he knew something we didn't. Margaret stepped out on the porch halfway through the story, arms folded. When Dean finished, Bill wiped his hands on a rag. "That sounds like Pfister," he said. Dean and I exchanged a look between us. "Who's Pfister? That can't be an actual name," I said. Margaret answered me. "He's the guy who used to live in your trailer." According to them, Pfister had lost the place about 6 months before we bought it. Missed payments, foreclosure, something along those lines. When the bank finally took the property, he apparently didn't handle it very well. "He had a complete meltdown," Bill said. They told us how he'd been seen storming around the yard after the eviction, kicking things over, smashing furniture inside the trailer before he finally was forced off the property, nearly at gunpoint, by the local sheriff's department. And Margaret said the sheriff had been called out there more than one time. "He drinks a lot, mean, crazy drunk. Used to chase his dogs around with a hammer," Margaret added. Bill nodded too. "A couple of fights in the neighborhood over the years, nothing that stuck though, legally. The last time anybody saw him, he'd been standing in the yards yelling about how the place was his and he'd be back for it. By the time Dean and I walked back across the road, neither of us felt good about what we just heard. So later that morning, we drove to the police station, told them everything. The footsteps on the porch, the door handle turning, the story about Pfister. The officer that we spoke with was polite but matter of fact. Without any kind of evidence of a break-in or property damage, there wasn't much they could do. "Just call us if he comes back," he told us, and that was that. This all took place in the early 2000s, before any cheap cameras and home security systems were fairly common. Even if they had been, we couldn't afford them. Most of our savings had gone into buying the place, and like most new homeowners, we were on our own. Our version of home security was pretty simple. Dean had a snub node 38 special that he kept in a box inside the bedroom closet. We also kept a baseball bat behind the front door. In my mind, there was a block of kitchen knives on the counter, surgically sharp. It wasn't much, but knowing that they were really, oh my god, I'm really fucking going for it. Happy Friday the 13th to you as well, Angel. Front door. In my mind, kitchen knives on the counter, surgically sharp. Knives on the counter, surgically sharp. Okay. Gosh. Okay. It wasn't much, but knowing they were there gave us a little peace of mind. Bill and Margaret also promised us they'd keep an eye out. If they saw Pfister anywhere near the property, they'd call us or the police immediately. God, it was refreshing to actually have allies, actual boots on the ground to rely on. I made sure to tell them thank you every single day. For a few weeks, everything was nice and quiet. One afternoon, however, Dean and I pulled into the driveway after getting some groceries, and the first thing we noticed was the front door. It was barely hanging from the hinges, frame nothing but splinters. Jam detonated from some kind of extreme pressure. Somebody had kicked in our front door. Dean cracked his knuckles, told me to stay in the car. We didn't have a cell phone, and he wanted eyes on the inner workings of the house. He grabbed a crowbar from the back seat and walked up the porch steps. The door limped open the rest of the way when he pushed it in. He then disappeared through the damaged portal. That was the longest minute of my life before he finally leaned back out. Air rushed out of me, and for a split second, I thought I was going to pass out. He yelled that it was clear and waved me in. I popped the door open, walking on numb, useless legs. The living room looked like it had been hit by a tornado. Couch cushions on the floor, drawers pulled open, kitchen cabinets hanging wide open. All of my stuff was everywhere. All I could think was, why would somebody do this? What were they possibly even looking for? Somebody had gone through the house, tossing things aside like they were searching for something in particular, or maybe just destroying whatever they could. Was it just revenge, pure spite, blind rage? Who knows? We'd barely started walking the rooms when we heard sirens outside. 2 police cars pulled up in front of the trailer. A godsend. I almost started crying, if I recall. Bill and Margaret had heard the commotion from across the street and called it in, we later learned. They bailed our asses out more than one time. Dean stepped outside to explain that we owned the place and had just arrived. While the officers walked through the trailer taking notes, Bill stood in his driveway watching the whole thing. When one of the cops asked if anybody who had seen it might have done it. Wait, what? When one of the cops asked if anybody had seen who might done it, Bill didn't hesitate, hollering across the street. "It's gotta be Pfister," he said. "Guy's a decorated asshole. You know him, he used to live here. He said he'd be back, and now I think he has." Suddenly, the police were paying attention, asking all the questions about the name. And then suddenly, the police were paying attention, asking all kinds of questions about the man called Pfister. Police stayed for nearly an hour. They photographed the broken door, the splintered frame, and the mess inside. One officer walked slowly through each room with a notepad, while the other snapped the pictures of all the damage. They talked about everything they recorded, just to see if they agreed with one another. Dean and I repeated the same story several times to them. When they finished, the older officer shut his notebook and nodded. "We'll start looking for him," he said. "Bars, cheap motels, places like that. He's got to be floating in a puddle of spit somewhere." He then pointed toward the driveway. "If he comes back, you call us immediately. Don't waste a second. This guy is clearly agitated about something." Watching the patrol cars drive off gave me this strange kind of relief. For the first time since the footsteps on the porch, it felt like somebody else was involved, somebody who might actually stop it. Not just our nice old neighbors, who were helpful, I'll admit it, but somebody with a badge, a gun, some kind of influence. Dean and I spent the rest of that day cleaning up, getting everything back to halfway normal. When we set the couch upright, shoved all the drawers back in the dressers, and swept up the splinters around the front door, Dean borrowed some tools from Bill across the street, managed to get the door back on the hinges well enough that it would lock again. It was a mangled mess, but it was something to block up the open air. By evening, the trailer looked almost normal. We ordered some cheap takeout, sat on the couch watching the same dumb reality show that we always had on. The calm felt unreal after everything that had taken place. The police were looking for him. Maybe they'd find him before he tried anything else. I half smiled around my crab ragoons and prayed for a quick, clean conclusion. I smiled around my crab ragoons and prayed for a quick, clean conclusion. And eventually, we went to bed. Nothing strange happened that night. No footsteps, no door handle rattling, just quiet and still. We didn't sleep great either way, though. The next morning, Dean woke up early for work. He was pulling on his boots when I finally opened up my eyes. "You sure you're going to be okay here?" he asked me. I nodded. Dean was in the middle of a big job, wanted to knock a day out of it. It had a big paycheck waiting on the back end, so the only way to secure it was to finish it up. "I'll keep the door locked," I said. I knew he needed to go. He hesitated, leaned down and kissed me. "Call 911 if anything feels off, all right?" A few minutes later, I heard his truck start up. Gravel sloshed as he pulled out of our driveway. The trailer went to quiet again, not a peep. I stayed there in bed for quite some time, just enjoying the silence. The stress from the day before had finally caught up with me, and I felt strangely calm. Eventually, I got up for a glass of water, wandering back toward the bedroom, and decided I really wasn't ready to start the day yet. So I laid back down. No big deal, right? I work in the evening, so my mornings are kind of just for me. I crawled into bed and dozed. Must have been asleep for maybe another hour or so. When I awoke, something immediately felt wrong. I couldn't place it, but it was like the place was filled with this invisible smoke, something dangerous putting me on edge. I stepped into the hallway and froze. Our front door was now wide open. For a brief second, my brain could not process what I was actually looking at. And then I saw him. A middle-aged man stood in our living room, like he owned the place, leaning against the counter with a beer in his hand. Greasy hair hung around his face. His eyes moved slowly across the room. He looked furious at everything that he was scanning. When he noticed me, he smiled. It was the most hateful expression I'd ever seen. I turned to run, but I panicked. A real-life short circuit. I understood deer in the headlights now, fight or flight, and I had neither. I stuttered to take a step and then found myself going nowhere. Behind me, the front door slammed shut, and his boots pounded down the hallway. I made it halfway to the back room before a fist tangled up into my hair, ripping me backwards. My head slammed up against the wall, hard as hell, and wide stars quickly filled my vision. "Pretty little thing," he muttered. "Damn, real pretty, huh? You home alone? Little bombshell home alone?" He tore at my shirt, ripping it open while I screamed. He then dragged me into the bedroom, one ragged fist at a time, tearing at every part of me. He moved quickly, yanking up the closet, grabbing whatever he could find. Socks, neckties, anything he could find to bind. Within minutes, my hands and feet were tied painfully behind my back, and he shoved a sock into my mouth, then slapped me across the face. Mostly my ear, but it still made me see stars again. I went quiet and just begged him to stop. Then he left the room. All I could do was lie there crying while I tore through the house again. Drawers slamming, cabinets banging, things crashing onto the floor. Eventually, the footsteps came back down the hallway. Pfister stepped into the bedroom, sizing me up and down. "Look at that," he said quietly. "I bagged a good one. You're really here alone, huh?" He reached into the closet, pulled out Dean's belt. The first strike landed across my chest. The next one cracked across my neck. He used the leather end to whip me over and over. And then the buckle came down hard across my face, my eyes, my nose, my teeth, my scalp. Easily the worst beating of my life. Through blurred vision, the last thing I ever saw was Pfister standing over me, calmly unzipping his pants. Oof. It's always AI, my guy. Always. Forever and will always be AI. Not a fan of this story. Wasn't expecting it to take that turn. So we're also, looks like we're trying something new where I might do like an intermission. Okay, I'm doing this live, so I need your genuine opinions here. So from my understanding, at least for this episode and then potential new episodes in the future, we are going to leave you hanging. So the very first story, which I just read you, gets to this part and then we stop. And this is like a intermission opportunity. So I'll stop after that story. Instead of doing like a whatever ad or something like that, I can do this. Okay, so here I'll just give you what the intermission says. Good evening. Thanks for dropping in for another episode of Booze and Booze. Hit the follow and notification bell if you haven't already. Today's theme is new house horror stories, what it's like to deal with the nightmares of a property's past. I know what you're thinking. The first story ended on quite a cliffhanger. it has a conclusion. So you got to stick around to the end to hear the final installment. Otherwise, here's the next story. Enjoy. And so this next story is a completely different story, has nothing to do with the first story that we just read, but the last story of the episode is going to be the conclusion of this story. All right, so I'm going to record the intermission. Well, we were kind of like talking about how I'm not trying to directly rip from Mr. Ballin, but like how Mr. Ballin tells his stories, he makes you stick around to the end. Like makes you, if you want to get the payoff, if you want to get like the genuine like conclusion to this, you got to stick around to the end, because there's always a twist. There's always like, it's not what you think it is type of thing. So trying to figure out ways to like keep people involved, especially after 2 months of like throwing spaghetti at the wall. Cool. All right, well, oh wait, stop. I don't know why that's not working. Okay, let me try that again. All right. All right, well, thank you. Thank you to the few of you who said something to me about it. All right. There's like 35 of you in here. I don't care if you never talk in chat. Like, I need your opinion. You're in the writer's room right now as things is brought to life. So yay, nay, maybe I can do a big old poll. Engage with your audience. Let's start a poll. So let's say two-parter. One at beginning and conclusion at the end. Yes or no? Okay. Nope. 2 parts. 2 parts. Start poll. Stop. Okay. Nope. Stop. Well, the point is, I will do an intermission right after that story. So I'll be like, hey, I know you want to hear the end of this, but it doesn't happen until the end of the episode. So it shouldn't be too confusing if I do a lot of hand holding. I tend to have to hold a lot of hands in the show, so I don't mind doing it. We're going to try it regardless for this episode and see what the response back is to it. People hate it. Then I guess we'll reevaluate. I know how people are nowadays when it comes to, I want the payoff now, I want my shit now. I don't have an attention span, especially like fucking tic-tackers. You got 30 seconds to get me or I'm out. All right, I'm gonna record the intermission now. Testing. Okay. Good evening. Thanks for dropping in for another episode of Booze and Booze. Hit the follow and notification for another episode of Booze and Booze. Hit the like button and the notification bell if you're on YouTube, or the follow button if you're on Spotify. Today's theme is new house horror stories. What it's like to deal with nightmares of a property's past. I know what you're thinking. That last story ended on quite the cliffhanger, and it does have a conclusion. So stick around to the end to hear the final installment. Otherwise, here's the next story. Enjoy. Enjoy. Pee-pee. Okay. New house horror. New house horror story. New house story 2. Yeah, I mean, I'll probably, especially for this episode, I'll probably do a disclaimer at the beginning and be like, hey, this episode features potential sexual assault type of thing. So if you're not interested in that, do not listen. Which I'm not really a fan of either. I don't really know who would be a fan of that, but which would be really fucking weird if you are a fan of that, but check your computer if you are a fan of that. Okay, next story. Actually, I have to go pee. Be right back. Pee break. Everybody go pee. All right. All right. Okay, pull this story back up. Okay. Story number 2. The call came in just after lunch, and I almost didn't answer it. Most of my business came through referrals, but every now and again, a cold call slipped through. Usually somebody upside down on their mortgage or hoping I could perform some kind of miracle on a house that nobody else wanted. I glanced at the number, took a sip of coffee, and picked it up. Ogden Realty, this is Mark. Realty. I said Realty. Ogden Realty, this is Mark. There was a pause on the other end. Lots of breathy indecision, but no words came to my ear. Oh shit, I actually get the... Okay, so I bought this payphone thing to help me with when I'm like doing like calls and stuff like that and stories. I can actually use it now. I did wash my hands. It's a fast wash, but yeah, I washed them. I did wash them, but it was okay, so I'll tell you a really embarrassing story. Well, actually, you know what? I probably shouldn't tell that story. Never mind. Don't just pretend you didn't hear that. Yeah, I mean it's not a big deal, you know. I washed them. They're washed. I washed them. Water is washing, right? Okay, I get to use this. Can you hear me through this device? Can you hear me? Can you hear me through this device? I can try to. Oh, there's a lot of. All right. I should tell you the story through the payphone. Is it working? Hold on. Let me see if it's working. Oh, it is. Wait. No, it's not working. Wait. Yes, it is. Roger, Roger. This is Rolling Thunder. I'm stopping by the greasy spot to get myself some roller dogs. Over. Yeah, I'll tell you the story through this, and it'll sound like I'm actually telling it through a payphone. So, I have a really bad habit since I'm a dude, and I can just walk into my bathroom and start like pulling my member out because I'm already about to pee, you know? Like, I don't wait till I get right in front of the toilet to do it. Like, I have a really bad habit of just like kind of prepping myself and just getting ready so I can pee and get the hell out of there because I got something else to do. And I remember being at the post office and just kind of like disassociating because it's really early in the morning. And like one of my buddies, Craig, was like walking out of the bathroom as I'm walking in, and it's not really that great of a story. It just reminded me of it. It was just like I basically flashed Craig unintentionally because I'm so used to getting ready basically before I even pulled up to the urinal. And Craig's like, "What the fuck, dude? Put your dick away." And I was like, "Oh man, you're right. My bad." See, it wasn't even that good of a story. All right. Oh, you know what would really pull this together? Give us some ambience, some real trailer park sound effects, barking dogs, yes, weed whackers, police sirens, spouses yelling at each other. I'm doing all of this with a wife beater on and a pack of cigarettes. There's a lot of weird stains all over my wife beater right now, too. We don't know where they came from. We're just doing it. Get a head start. I like that. Very nice. Yes. Very tongue-in-cheek of you, Miss Amy. Alright, I gotta record this next part. Alright, what was the last part? The last thing I said. Oh shit. Okay, hello. There was a pause on the other end. Lots of breathing incision. Words came to my ear. Words came to my ear. Hello? Okay. Oh wait, that part's... All that was for nothing. Oh my god. This next part I gotta say it back in regular ye old mic. Hello? Okay, now we go to the other person's part. Sorry, I know that's probably really loud. Anytime I get this phone close to any of my computer or anything, it starts like shrieking. You wanna hear it shriek? Let's listen. Oh god. Okay. Alright, and this is what you guys came here for, right? Some good ambience. Also, Joseph, what's going on, my guy? We are going to be holding a contest in the next episode. I forgot to tell, or I'm going to tell you guys about it first. We're going to be holding a contest in the next episode. I want you to remember this because whoever gets the most likes or like hearts or whatever the hell it's called on YouTube, I lost my train of thought. Fuck, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so whoever gets the most likes and comments like on when their pitch, whatever they want to call it. So I want to start like, I want everybody to start being outlandishly like titling the episodes. Me and Zach and Katie were having a pretty damn good thread of them earlier because it all started out with like just reading. We're reading comments and stuff like that about from the actual episodes, and just listening to people bitch about the dumbest fucking shit ever, and like just complaining about the dumbest shit ever. Just like, I can't make everybody and anybody happy, it seems like. And so it started off from there, and then got into like, I'm just going to start titling them like wild, outlandish things and seeing if people even click on it, or maybe if it gets some more traction. So like, one of my ideas was like that. So picture you're scrolling on YouTube, and this is the title that you see. Okay. So get in that headspace. I'll give you 4 seconds so that you can pretend that you're on your phone or on your computer, on your TV, wherever you're watching the tube you at, and you see this title, and you tell me if you would click on it or not. Okay? 12 hours of men passionately kissing while somebody tells scary stories from the next room. Then you put the little thing, like the space bar thing. I don't even know what the hell that's called. And then it says like fall asleep fast, deep sleep. Or 12 hours of true scary stories, occasionally broken up by Owen Wilson saying, wow. And so, that's what I want to do. And I want to have a bunch of outlandish, like random, cool titles that everybody wants to name. And then if your comment or your title that you post in this comment section gets the most likes, then I will title the next episode that, like, literally, and see what happens. You know, like stupid shit like that. I don't know why, because if you really get on YouTube, it really is like, there is outlandish. Like, I even found one earlier when I was laughing because I wanted to find like something Taco Bell related. And there's one, it's just like 12 hours of silence occasionally broken up by the Taco Bell gong. And it is silence, and then you just don't know when it's gonna happen. And then the bell just like gong. And I don't know why it's so funny. Or I was watching a couple like reels on Instagram of it's like just Nickelback playing, but there's an angle grinder in the background, and I don't know why it's so funny, but it's fucking hilarious. It basically all started out because I'm not even gonna get into it. Let's just read the story. Hello? Okay, let's get the speaker spacker back on, because it's already 10 o'clock and there's a lot of stories I gotta read. Okay, let's get this back up. All right, and then a woman. This is not going to be easy to do, actually. You know what? We're not going to do it. I'm just going to do it the old-fashioned way because it's more efficient right now. Hello? And, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There was a pause on the other end. Lots of breathy indecision, but... Wait, I already fucking said that. Then a woman said very quietly, "We need to sell our house." Her voice sounded galaxies away, not nervous exactly, more like somebody who hadn't slept in a while, fragile in a way. "Okay," I said back. "Where are you located?" Another pause. Then she responded back with the address. 2538 Van Buren. I leaned back in my chair and rubbed my forehead. Of course it was. That neighborhood sits just north of historic 25th Street, one of the oldest parts of Ogden. Gorgeous old homes, prairie-style houses, brick four squares, big porches, mature trees. Buyers love that aesthetic. It's a golden egg of an era with an endless potential. But the stories, those come with the territory. Every year or so, somebody decides their house is haunted. Doors closing, lights flickering, kids saying things in the hallway. Some years we hear about 3 or 4 different Some years we hear about 3 or 4 different homes all in the same 2-mile stretch. Most of it will eventually be turned in. Oh my God, that's not it. Most of it turns out to be old wiring, creepy beams. I'm losing it. I was doing so good with the first story. All in the same 2-mile stretch. And we're losing it. We're losing her. Most of it turns out to be old wiring, creepy beams. I said it again. Why am I saying creepy beams? Most of it creaky. Most of it turns out to be old wiring, creaky beams, or a neighbor messing around with somebody. Still, I knew that area. I work real estate. It's my job to know all these details, even if they're bullshit. Whatever affects the market, I make note of. Personally, though, I had zero interest, but the street had a reputation. All right, I said. I can come by and take a look. I had already picked up the phone and thought, hell, maybe it's one of those premier houses off 25th. It could actually be worth my time. The woman exhaled like she'd been drowning. Please, she said. Today if you can. Okay, sure thing. The house looked pretty normal when I pulled up. 2-story brick, low-hip roof, wide eaves, classic prairie school architecture. Built sometime around 1919 if my memory was correct. A big maple tree was out front with a swing tied to one of the branches, and a cobble walkway right up to the door. Kid's bike in the yard. Pretty normal, right? I grabbed my clipboard filer and walked up the steps. Before I could even knock, the door opened in front of me. A man about my age stood there, thin and pale like he hadn't been outside in a few days. Mark? He asked. Yeah, that's me. He stepped aside immediately. Come in. The house smelled faintly like coffee, cinnamon, and sage, and inside were 4 other people. A woman standing near the kitchen island, 2 little kids sitting on the couch with blankets around their shoulders, and an older woman near the window. Nobody looked comfortable. Whatever was going on was not relaxing for these folks. They could have been huddled together in a bomb shelter by the look on their faces. There was a shared exhaustion between them. The man shut the door behind me. Thank you for coming so fast, he said. Yeah, no problem, I said back. So, what's going on? Family emergency? I felt bold for asking, but there was an elephant in the room, and I was here on business, so... They apparently understood, too. The woman spoke first. We just need to get out. She sounded terrified. I gave my standard realtor smile, the one that calmed everything down, pretty much guaranteed. Well, I said, the houses in this area sell pretty quickly if the price is right, but I'll need to know why you're looking to move so suddenly. Nobody answered me right away. Is it something with the house? The husband gave me this small, dry smile. You're gonna think we're insane. I shrugged at him. You'd be surprised what I hear about in this business. Try me. He glanced toward the stairs, and to my wonder, something creaked up there, right on cue. The man looked back at me and caught my eye, and he almost smiled. That's been happening a lot, he said. Just dry settling creaks? I asked. I wrote something meaningless on my clipboard, just trying to keep things normal. Look, sir, old houses make noises, I said. Literally all of them. It's not a big deal. Won't shift a sale. The wife shook her head. No. This one does a lot more than that. It only creaked because he looked up there. Okay, well, what else you got? She then tells me about the first day. They had just moved in, threw a little party to celebrate. Friends came over to see the house. They barbecued, had a potluck. It was a simple gathering that went on into the evening, and 99% of it occurred outside. The sun goes down, everybody's chilling, smoking, having a drink, whatever. Well, somebody notices a curtain inside shaking like somebody was whipping it back and forth, except the windows were closed and nobody was inside. So obviously they run in to check it. The curtain stops immediately, but rattled right up until the moment they entered the room. There were multiple witnesses on that day, not just the family, which was significant to them after everything had just happened. I nodded politely. Air pressure can... And then the window shattered, she said. I stopped writing. What do you mean? The husband leaned forward. She's telling my mom the story that same night. She's telling my mom this story the same night, he said. Right here in the living room. She points at the window right where it happened. He pointed to a tall pane of glass near the couch. And right when she points at it, he claps his hand together once, and the sound echoed inside that quiet house. When it cleared, the house creaked as if into some kind of response. Spider cracks across the whole thing, he said, like somebody hit it with a hammer. Unbelievable stuff is happening here, man. I don't know how else to explain it. The kids on the couch pulled their blankets up to them tighter. I felt the temperature in the room drop a little. It made the sweat under my clothes turn a little chilly. Probably just my imagination. Well, I mean, glass can fracture from temperature shifts, I said. Yeah, well, that's what I said too, the husband replied back. He then rubbed his eyes. But then that night, something slammed into the house so loud, it woke both of us up. He told me about how he searched the whole place, 3 floors, basement included. Every room, every closet, every hallway, every corner. Nothing went undisturbed. There's nothing. So, I sleep on the couch, he said. His eyes then drifted toward the front window. The porch light shines through that window, makes a square on the wall. Another creak sounded upstairs. Heavy this time, like a great weight settling up on the top step. Nobody in the room moved, and the husband just kept talking. So I'm laying there, and suddenly there's a shadow in that light. A person standing there, dead center of the window. He pointed at the wall. They're outside the house, so I run outside fast as I can. Didn't even bother grabbing a weapon. I just want to get my fucking hands on whoever this is. Honey, his wife said, nodding to the kids. He shook his head. Sorry, guys. The kids nod back at him and he turns back to me. There's nobody out there. No trees, no place to hide, nothing. I looked all over just to be sure, but there was no sign of anybody. Behind us, the staircase creaked again, a step further down than before. I now looked toward the stairs, and for just a second I thought I saw something move near the bottom step, but when I focused on it, there's nothing there. The wife was staring at the stairs too. Quietly, she says to me, That's the man my daughter keeps asking about. I asked her what she meant by that. She said her kids keep seeing a man at the top and bottom of the stairs. It was sporadic at first, but as time goes on, it starts occurring. It was sporadic at first, but as time went on, it occurred daily, usually between both kids. No one ever saw anything for real, but whatever it was terrifying the children. I was there for a couple of hours, I was there for a few hours, heard them out, and saw the family not just scared to the point of exhaustion, but I saw people in need. I told them I'd take them under contract and do what I could do to get them out from underneath the property. The next week should have been routine. Once a seller signs paperwork, the process moves pretty fast. Cleaning crews, photographs, staging, listing the copy. I've sold plenty of homes near 25th Street, and the rhythm is always the same. But that Van Beern house never felt normal, not from the first day that I stepped on site. The cleaning crew called me on the second day of work. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hey, Mark, the woman said. We need to cut this job short. Why? I asked. A pause. Stuff keeps moving. What kind of stuff? Our equipment, she said. Buckets, chemicals, the vacuum, everything. It's like there's no gravity in this place. Maybe there's a ghost or something living in the walls. Her voice dropped. We put a mop in the hallway. Turn around, it's gone. Then we'll find it upstairs. Are you saying somebody moved it? That's the thing, she said. There's nobody else here, right? Another pause. She was putting me on blast. And we keep seeing shadows in the rooms that we just left. I rub my forehead. Look, please just finish the job if you can. I'll throw in an extra 100. They ended up staying, but barely. When I stopped by that afternoon, all 3 cleaners were working in this tense silence. Every door in the house stood open. Nobody wanted to go back to a room they couldn't see, and they were sweating just to get it finished. You guys almost done? I asked them. A woman nodded but didn't speak to me. One of the male cleaners just kept staring at the staircase like he expected somebody to come walking down them. I paid them and let them go, and didn't bother asking any more questions. The quicker I can flip this, the quicker I could just forget about it. I'll admit the house photographed beautifully. High ceilings, original woodwork, big windows. Exactly the kind of place buyers in Ogden love. I was actually proud to have such a showcase on my listing page, at least for a few days anyway. But every time I stepped back in, the air felt toxic, like I was in a gas chamber. And that first showing did not go well. I arrived early to put out the sign, unlock the doors. When I was setting out the placard in the lawn, I heard footsteps inside. Unmistakable, marching through that first floor. Then the steps just stopped. I straightened up and looked at the house. Whoever was in there had changed levels without using the stairs. Every window was dark. When I went inside, the place was empty. Every room, every floor, no lights, no sounds. Still, as I walked through turning on lamps, the house would creak behind me. Soft shifting sounds, like somebody in a heavy robe moving just out of sight. I got the hell out of there and resolved to just sell the damn place. The closest incident happened almost 3 days later. I was upstairs nitpicking something in the master bedroom per usual when I followed some lint and stray hair into the closet, something the vacuum had trailed behind. I stepped in and was picking it up off the floor. I didn't mean to go as deep as I did. The second my entire body was inside that closet, the door swung closed behind me, and I was smothered in darkness in half a second. Then the handle moved, a soft click. There wasn't a lock on this door. I wasn't worried, but it was weird. I imagined somebody waiting for me out there in the master bedroom. I turned the knob. It wouldn't open, and at first I just laughed. "Ha ha, very funny," I said. Nobody answered me. I tried again. The knob turned freely, but the door wouldn't budge. Something was holding it shut from the outside. I twisted the handle harder in both directions, really giving it some shoulder now. "Hello? This isn't funny." Still nothing. But I could feel some resistance through the knob. There was somebody pressed up to the other side of this door, locking me in place inside the closet. I stood there listening to my own breathing, my own heartbeat detonating inside my chest, and then suddenly, the pressure disappears, and I mean evaporated, and the door swung open. The hallway outside was empty. The house was silent. I finished whatever the hell I was doing and just got out of there as quickly as I could. I decided right then, no more visits until there was an actual showing in the place. As it is with all the haunted, oh my god, I can't say it. Heard. Whoa. Oh shit. Thank you, Peter. Thank you for the $4.99. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe I took the noises off, but there was no like abrasive noise whenever a donation happens, like it normally does, and it scares the dog shit out of me. Yeah, this I don't normally like ghost stories, but this one's actually pretty good. And the door swung open. As it is with, I decided right then, No more visits until there was an actual showing in the place. No more visits until there's an actual showing in the place. I'm gonna go take a number 3. Yeah, do it. Do it. Don't wash your hands either. Be a man. Don't wash your hands. Where was I? As it is with all these haunted houses, that's what it is in the place. As it is with all haunted houses, I've come to learn. Man, fuck this house. A few mornings later, I was replacing flyers in the yard sign when a car pulls up. It was Thomas, the husband I was representing. He looked a lot worse than last time I'd seen him. His eyes were red, shoulders sagging. It was the opposite of why I got involved. I was trying to help this poor bastard. You getting any interest? He asked me. A little, I said back. It's a good location. Somebody will bite eventually. He looked up at the house. You know, I used to think ghost stories were bullshit. Still kind of do, honestly. I didn't answer him. Whatever the hell's in there, it's ruining my life. He then ran a hand through his hair. We're staying with my sister now. 6 people in a 2-bedroom apartment. Every moment is a nightmare, man. He gave me this hollow laugh, much like when we first met. I was starting to catch a pattern when I was in proximity to this building. And I'd be lying if I said it wasn't spooky as hell. Borderline homeless because of something I can't even prove exists. He leaned up against the signpost. I'll sell it, I said. I promise. I see your plight and I'm gonna help. I'm good at what I do. I promise. He nodded. Thank you. He walked back to his car. When he opened up the door, he wiped his face with his sleeve. Then he glanced back at me, the sunlight hitting his face The sunlight hits his face a little differently. And for a moment, his eyes looked a little darker than before. Not tired or anything, just dark. Almost black. Then he smiles at me, this strange smile, too calm and creepy for a man who just told me his family was falling apart. He slid in the driver's seat, started the engine, and rolled off down Van Buren. I watched the car disappear, and behind me, the house continued to creak from end to end. Within a month, I hated that fucking place. Every showing went sideways. People would walk in excited. Young couples, investors, retirees looking for something historic. Within 10 minutes, something strange would happen. Lights flickering, a loud thud upstairs when nobody was there. Sometimes a bunch of them, and they would catch me so off guard, I didn't even know what to say. Doors closing slowly on their own right in front of people. Once during a showing, a woman stopped mid-sentence and stared off toward the staircase. Did somebody just walk up there? She asked me. And nobody had. I decided and told her the showing was finished. Buyers always left uneasy, if not openly creeped out. And for obvious reasons, I wasn't getting any offers. Meanwhile, the family is calling me every other day, asking if there's any new news. And I could hear the strain in their voices. 6 people crammed into a relative's apartment, waiting on money from a house that just to stabilize their lives again. They couldn't move until that property was gonzo. Every time I walked into that place, something else would happen. Usually small, but enough to make the hair on the back of my neck stand immediately up. After the fifth week, I started wondering if I'd made some kind of mistake getting involved with this. So I called a friend of mine, an older guy named Rick who'd been selling properties in Ogden since the late 70s. If anybody knew the area, it was him. He'd helped me out with all kinds of weird stuff during my career. I explained everything to him, the house, the noises, the showings falling apart, and Rick listened on the other end while I talked. Finally, he asked me, "Where'd you say this place was again?" "Van Buren," I said, "just off 25th. The line went silent, and for a few seconds I thought the call had dropped. Then Rick said very slowly, "You're working a house on 25th Street. "Yeah?" Another pause. "Well," he said, "there's your problem. What the fuck are you thinking?" What do you mean? Rick sighed. Look, in the 40 years I've been doing real estate in this town, that area has always had stories, rumors, whatever you want to call it. What do you mean stories? Cursed houses, he said. Bad energy, people moving out suddenly. I've heard it all. Urban legends is what I'll call it. Black magic, son. I didn't say anything, and Rick continued. Those homes are old, Mark, like some of them over a century now, and that street, well, it's seen some things. Rick, you really believe in all this stuff? I asked him, and Rick chuckled back. It doesn't matter if I believe it, he said. People around here always have, and the fact is, it's pissing in your cereal. Even if it ain't real, it's ruining your deals, and for me, that's real enough. I stared holes into my office wall. Truer words had never met my ear. We hung up a few minutes later, and then I just sat there staring. Cursed. I didn't like the sound of that, but the family needed the money, and I needed out from this contract. So I decided if the house was going to sell, I'd drag a buyer into it kicking and screaming. I put together this marketing push, a small ad budget, professional photos, video walkthroughs. I scheduled a full open house weekend, on site for 6 hours a day, open for 12, fielding calls left and right, free food, flyers everywhere. Everything I could think to sweeten the pot. Even tossed around some extra friendly percentages. And people came. A lot of them. The house filled with voices, laughter, potential numbers, and for the first time since listing it, the place almost felt normal. By the end of the weekend, I had an offer, a real one, then another, and by God, one of them actually stuck. Contract signed, an excited couple moving in from St. Louis. Inspection scheduled, banks talking, everything on the move. I remember sitting in my office that Friday afternoon feeling lighter than I had in weeks. This nightmare was finally over. All I had to do was pull my yard signs. So that evening on my way home, I stopped by Van Buren. The whole area was a dead zone. No lights, no sounds, like the street had been evacuated. And then there it was. The house sat dark, still, a few streetlights buzzing under a purple sky. I walked across the lawn, pulled up the first sign from the ground. I had a special way of tacking them down in the dirt that made them easy to retrieve, but still sturdy to wind and rain. Then I went and grabbed the second, and as I lifted the last one, every light in that house snapped on, all at once, and I froze, half scared, half caught in pure disbelief. A second later, they go dark again, then off, then on, then off. And this time they just stayed that way, bright, glowing at me through the glass. I stood there in shock. Then something moved upstairs, the curtain top floor window. At first, it trembled slightly, then it began to shake, violently, whipping back and forth, like somebody inside was grabbing it and snapping it in the air. My stomach dropped. I loaded those signs into my car without even looking at the house again. Got inside, started the engine, and drove straight down the road like my business was somewhere else, because it was. That house now belonged to somebody new. And I never went back to Van Buren. In fact, I've never taken another listing anywhere near 25th Street. Not after that night. Some houses aren't just hard to sell. Some houses want you gone. Hey, oh, my mouth is dry. Van Buren. Oh, L, what up, though? How are you? How's yourself doing? Hopefully you're feeling better. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. When I was looking at the street on Google Maps, it was stunning. Stunning. I just don't know what happened. All right. So that's number 3, or number 2. And then new house, stories 3. Alright. I got B again. And then we'll finish the story from the beginning. You'll get the ending you've all been waiting for. In a world where pee-pee poo-poo does pee-pee poo-poo. Okay. Just waiting for a neurosurgeon to get back to me. Good Lord. Is there any kind of timeline or anything like that? It's kind of ridiculous that you have to just kind of sit there and wait. Alright, I'll be right back. I gotta go pee-pee. Pee-pee? Oi, Peter. Okay. It has begun. Okay. Yep, you missed part 1. Now you're gonna be like, wait, what? What's going on? What's going on here? This don't make no sense. Hold on. Oh, good Lord, why is there so many of those? Stop. I like this one. Yeah, baby. It's not as bright. It's not as bright. You fucking what, mate? You fucking what, mate? You what? Bottle of water? You should fucking what? Bottle of water? Alright. The Crown's... Who's number 1? Peter's got the number 1. Alright, engage. Okay. Let's see. 30 votes for in poll. So 30 votes, 87% said yes, 13% said no. Stop. Yeah, y'all are yappers. Yapperdoodles. Alright, shall we finish the second part of the story? Oh, I see what he did there. Pretty fucking cool, if you ask me. Very nice. Gonna get your aha moment. Oh, you're confused by polls? Well, you might have to sit down tonight and think about what you really like then. If you're confused by polls, then you might be attracted to something else. That's all I'll say. All right. Anyone else used to get in trouble for talking in school? Because I never really got in trouble for talking in school. I got in trouble a lot, but it wasn't for talking. Yeah, I was gonna say, you're up late, Granny. Discord Meemaw. I was in SDS a lot. Do you guys have SDS? I can't even talk shit though, because I'm usually asleep by right around now anyway too. Anywhere from 10 to 11, usually my bedtime. I've been staying up late, way later than I normally do the last couple of nights though. About a week, just because I've been playing the new Resident Evil game, and the only time I have really opportunities to play it is once the kids are in bed, so. Alright. Alright, good night, Discord Meemaw. Go get catch your ZZ tops. Oh yeah, I got fucking severe ADHD too. It's a curse and a blessing. A teacher loved me so much, he used to sing to me. What would he sing though? That's like, would he sing? I'm trying to come up with something good, like, I don't know. For the la. Sing like fucking Mike Jones. You sing like, oh shit, hold on. Alright, I'm gonna pull the story up now. Some of you are gonna know what's going on, and others of you are gonna have absolutely no idea what's going on, because you weren't here at the very beginning. So this episode, or this story, is a two-parter. Okay, first part's gonna be at the top of the episode. Second part is gonna be at the bottom of the episode. Okay, here we go. Let me find it. Here we go. The job site was loud, but I didn't do anything to keep my. Oh my god, I already fucked that up. Oh, great start. Holy shit, I lost my place. Lost my place. There we go. Okay. There it is. Good lord. Find it. Here we go. Okay. Stop. Oof. What voice is too low? My voice is too low? I haven't changed it at all, my guy. Is my voice too low now? It could be because I wasn't talking directly into the mic. My ADHD was going full blown, and I was trying to do this. Okay, here we go. Oh yes, I would love to be in that cabin too. Here we go. All right. Pull the story back up. Okay. The job site was loud, but it didn't do anything to keep my attention. All morning I just kept thinking about the trailer, about the busted door frame and the guy that went through my house, about the cops stomping around our living room with flashlights and notebooks, promising they'd find the guy who did it. Pfister. I just keep reading that name over and over, and it made my stomach turn. I swung my hammer harder than a locomotive, driving nails into a beam while the crew worked around me, sawdust floating in the heat. All I could smell was buzzing lumber. "Easy, man," one of the guys laughed. "You're gonna split the damn thing." I forced a grin but didn't say much. My mind kept drifting back. I forced a grin but didn't say much. My mind kept drifting back to my wife. The way she tried to act normal that morning. The way she insisted she'd be fine staying at home. "I'll clean up the mess and watch TV. Don't worry about me." But I did worry. By late morning, the sun was already beating down on the site, turning the gravel lot into a shimmering oven. Somebody called out that lunch was almost over. Somebody called out that it was almost lunch. I checked the position of the sun and wiped sweat from my face. He wasn't lying. The trailer park was only a few miles away, 10 minutes there, 10 minutes back. I set my hammer down along with my belt and the rest of my tools. "Hey, I'm gonna run home real quick," I said. One of the guys looked over at me. "Everything all right?" "Yeah," I said back. "I'm just gonna grab lunch and then I'll be right back." He shrugged and went back to work. I climbed into my truck and pulled onto the road. Hold on. Oof. He shrugged and went back to work. I climbed into my truck and pulled out onto the road. That drive back felt long, but I knew it was only because of what was in my head. I kept thinking about the broken stuff I'd have to fix, the scattered belongings, the feeling that somebody had touched every part of our personal lives. Pfister. I kept steering the wheel like I was choking the daylights out of him. I kept gripping that steering wheel like I was actually choking the daylights out of him. When I turned into the trailer park, everything looked normal. A couple of kids were riding their bikes in the entrance, a neighbor watering the flowers on her porch, dogs running batshit in every direction. Just another quiet afternoon. I pulled up beside our trailer and shut off the engine, and that's when I noticed the door. It wasn't closed. It sat slightly open just a few inches off the frame. A flat bar open to my house. Okay. Hang on, we gotta go back. Just another quiet afternoon. I pulled up beside our trailer and shut off the engine, and that's when I noticed the door. It wasn't closed. It sat slightly open just a few inches off the frame. A flat bar open to my house. At first I figured maybe my wife had stepped outside. Maybe she was behind the trailer messing with the garden or talking to one of the neighbors. I got out of the truck and closed the door quietly. The afternoon felt strangely still. No TV inside, no sounds of her moving around or anybody for that matter. Just the faint rustle of aluminum siding in the breeze. I stood there for a moment, just listening. "Babe?" I called out. Got nothing back. A cold knot was forming in my stomach, and I started toward the door. As I got closer, I could see the wood around the latch, splintered, but all of it new, like somebody had kicked it in a second time. My pulse started thumping in my ears. "Hey!" I called out louder this time, and still got nothing. I was only a few steps from the door when it happened. A scream ripped throughout the trailer. My wife. It was raw and terrified. The kind of scream that just doesn't leave any doubt that something terrible is happening. She didn't fall. This wasn't a spider. Somebody was hurting her. And everything inside me snapped. I shoved the door open so hard it fell to pieces, and I bolted. I didn't bother with a weapon of any kind. I looked around. My place was destroyed. Coffee table was flipped over, chairs knocked down, drawers ripped out and scattered across the floor like somebody had dumped the whole house upside down. I shouted again, and another scream answered from the back bedroom. I followed the trail of wreckage down the hallway, stepping over broken picture frames and scattered clothes. The bedroom door was halfway open. I kicked it the rest of the way in. What I saw in front of me made the world go red. My wife was on the bed half naked, hog-tied, a strip of cloth jammed into her mouth, and on top of her was Pfister. The greasy bastard had really thought he still owned the place, this fucking dump barely worth calling a home. I felt myself turn into a caveman in those precious few seconds. I was going to split this guy's head in half, just like my ancestors would do. His pants were halfway down, one hand pinning her shoulder while she thrashed beneath him. And for a split second, he looked up at me, surprise flashing across his face. And then I was moving. I grabbed the back of his shirt and ripped him off the bed. Creating space was obviously the first priority. The longer he touched her, the worse it was. We slammed into the dresser so hard, the mirror exploded into confetti all around. We slammed into the dresser so hard, the mirror exploded into confetti all around us. He swung wild and caught the side of my jaw, but I barely even felt it. I drove him backward and we crashed into the floor, smashing into the nightstands as lamps shattered, and the two of us just started beating the hell out of one another. The first punch that I threw landed clean. The second one didn't. I didn't really have much of a play beyond that. Pfister recovered fast, and I really wasn't ready for that either. He drove his shoulder into my chest and we slammed into the wall. I lost my breath. My head cracked up against the paneling and stars burst across my vision. Then he hit me, once, twice, and a third punch snapped my head sideways and sent me crashing to the floor. Then came the boot. My wife was screaming behind us, the sound muffled by the cloth in her mouth, but still sharp enough to cut through and find my ears. She was screaming for him to stop. Pfister didn't hear her. He climbed on top of me and started hammering punches into my face, and I tried to block, tried to shove him off, but the guy was a lot heavier than me and completely out of his mind. One fist smashed into my nose and warm blood spilled down my lip. For a brief moment, I really thought I was a dead man. My wife continued screaming, thrashing on the bed. Pfister glanced back at her for half a second, and that ended up being the opening I needed. I shoved upward, twisting my body and moving away. He teetered back and I scrambled onto my feet, dizzy and half blind, but at least I was standing. He rushed me again. I grabbed his shirt, shoved him backward with everything I had. We crashed into the front window of the bedroom, the big one with cheap thin glass, all of which exploded. The pane shattered outward and Pfister went halfway through it, the broken edge tearing across his back. He screamed and stumbled away from the frame, blood soaking through his shirt. "I'm bleeding. Damn, I'm bleeding." I didn't wait. I ran for the closet, the pistol still inside the shoebox on the top shelf right where I kept it. My hands were shaking, but I grabbed it and turned back toward the bedroom. Pfister was staggering into the hallway, clutching his back. I closed the distance and swung. It didn't need to be outright murder. The pistol cracked across the back of his head with a dull thud. He reeled sideways, grabbing his face. Before he could recover, I shoved the barrel as hard. Oh my God. He reeled sideways. Before he could recover, I shoved the barrel as far as I could into his ear. "Don't fucking move," I said. And for the first time, he looked back at me scared. We stared at one another for a second, and then he turned and ran. He bolted down the hallway, crashing through the living room, and blasted out of the front door into the woods behind the trailer park. I stood there breathing hard, the pistol still raised. The hell just happened to my wife, to my house? She made a choking sound behind me. I dropped the gun and rushed over to her. Her wrists were tied behind her back, her ankles were bound together. I pulled the cloth from her mouth and she gasped out for air. "Oh my God, Dean." It's okay, I said, working the knots loose. "He's gone now." Once she was free, she wrapped her arms around me and couldn't stop weeping. After a minute, I got up, locked the door as best I could, and ran to the neighbor's place, and they called the police. Cruisers arrived in just a few minutes, officers moving through the trailer, tracking the damage, before moving off into the forest. My wife sat wrapped up in a blanket, stunned out of coherence. One of the officers knelt beside her. "Did he assault you, ma'am?" he asked. She wiped her eyes and shook her head. "No, but he was going to, if Dean hadn't come home." Her voice broke. He was seconds away. More tears after that. I was just so relieved to hear that he actually didn't assault her. Not long after that, the officers started searching the woods behind the trailer park. Guns out, dogs, shotgun teams, whole 9 yards. I think they found him about 30 minutes later. Pfister had made it maybe 400 yards before collapsing in the creek at the bottom of the hill. Heart attack. The ambulance loaded him up, but he ended up dying on the way to the hospital. It was such an utter shock, a bizarre ending. Oh my God. It was such an utter shock, a bizarre ending to the whole ordeal, but it put us at peace, even gave us a little sense of justice. The dumb bastard killed himself. It took nearly a month to repair everything he'd done to the trailer. New window, new door, half the furniture replaced, but after that, things were quiet again, and the house finally felt like it was actually ours. Okay. Got that dog in me. Big dog, big dog. Hell yeah. 50 Shades of Gay. My first day in the desert, World War III Badlands ambience. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Big dog. I eat hot dogs for the shape, not for the taste. All right, well, that's the ending. That's it. We're gonna make this quick. I'm gonna hop off here because it's 11 o'clock at night. Nikki, hello. Nikki Craig. And I gotta edit these and get it all done before tomorrow. So, yeah, been fun. Thanks for hanging out with me while I recorded these. Now I got to do the fun part and edit them and put it all together. Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good one. This episode will be out on Tuesday evening. All right. Yeah, okay. Put that down. That goes away. Okay. All right. Make sure that... Okay, all right. I can do this without you. All right. Love ya. Bye. Take care. Have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. GG.